and the White Castle is just beautiful. I mean, you know, this is the round marker here. I mean, oh. This is Will from Table the Game, and I'm excited today because I have a couple games I've promised for a long time to bring to you guys, and today's the day. Here it is. So the other reason is I've wanted to play these for a long time. One of which, when I started in the hobby, it's been on my list for a really long time, a few years now. And these games, this video is going to come with a giveaway that my hope is that you guys get it before Christmas. So Merry Christmas. I hope everybody has had a wonderful year, and of course a great 2025. That's what I'm hoping for. And so we just pray blessings on you guys. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Let's get into it. So I told you guys I was going to bring the Red Cathedral and the White Castle to the channel. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually decided to do one video, and I'm going to compare these. There's some things that I really love both the games, and they're very close. I'm just going to kind of give you, I'm going to break it down into 5 different segments, and then, you know, I'm going to go over also a little bit about how to play the game, very light explanation on both games, and then I'm going to let you guys know, you know, which one I like better, and then let you guys decide. So I definitely recommend both of them, but let's get into it. All right, here is the Red Cathedral. So let's go over a few components of this game. Number one is you have the main board here, which is the marketplace where you go and gather resources. You have your cathedral section here. One thing that's really cool about this is every game you get a different blueprint. And so the cathedral changes, it's different sizes and things like that. You have your player board, which is your workshop board. That's where you keep the resources that you're able to gather to bring to the cathedral to help build it. So let's go over the resources here. So you have stone, you have lumber, brick, gold. There's 2 different types of gems. You have purple and green gems, and the money system of this game are rubles. So on your turn, you have one of 3 options that you can choose from. Number 1, you can go into the marketplace to gather resources. Number 2, you can claim sections of the cathedral. And number 3 is you can build your section of the cathedral or decorate any section of a finished portion of the cathedral. So on your main player board, you have 6 banners. So all you have to do in the game is somebody has to build 6 portions of the cathedral, and when you do that, you activate the end of the game. So if on your turn you're gonna choose to claim a section of the cathedral, you take one of your banners, and you have to start off on the base aspect of the cathedral, and then you can work your way up from there. So what you have to do is you have to choose which section you want, and there's a few decisions that you have to make. Number 1 is each section gives you more points. They change. Some are worth more than others. The larger points that you get, the more resources it's going to take for you to build that. So you have to choose wisely. And there are workshop tiles on each portion of the cathedral that can help you gather more resources in the future. So if I choose this one, I put my banner there. I claim the workshop tile. And at that point, if I want to spend the money, I can choose any one of these sections of my workshop board, and I can... if I want to spend the money, I can place it here. And this is going to help me later on to gather more resources when I go to the marketplace. Now, if I do not want to spend the money or don't have the money, then I flip it over here. I don't gain that ability, but I did get to claim a section of the cathedral. All right. Now, the next thing you do is if you decide that you need to go gather resources, then you go to the main board here. Now, this is the rondel section of the game, which I just really love. And so what you do is you decide which dice that you're going to use. And the number on the dice will dictate how far you can move that. So each section, so this particular section here is a red 2. And so I'd have to move this 2 spaces. And then I would get the resource, which is gold, on that space. Now, there's a few different aspects of this that are really cool. Number 1 is that I have a color. So my color is red. So if I use the red die or the white die, I can decide to spin a ruble to move it in an additional space, or if I can continue to spend more rubles to move it. That only works for your color die or the white die. All right. Now, there's other aspects to it as well, that if you end up landing on a space that has another die, you get 2 of those resources. So this is a really cool aspect of the game. All right. Now, the third thing that you do is you are building the section of the cathedral. So on your turn, if you choose that action, you can move up to 3 resources to the cathedral. So this particular portion of the cathedral requires 2 brick, a stone, and a gold. So on my turn, if I had a 2 brick and a stone and a gold, I would be able to bring 3 of them and place it there. Now, my next turn, if I had the gold, I would be able to place that right here. And if I did that, I would return the resources to the main supply, and then I would get the things that are listed here. So I'd get 4 rubles, and I'd get 8 prestige points, which is a track here that as you play the game, you get to go around the track. And then I would flip it over, and that is now a finished section of the cathedral. I would place my banner there. All right, the other aspect of building is decorating. So the cool thing about decorating the cathedral is you're not confined to just your section. You can go into other people's sections that are finished, and you can decorate it. So you have a few different decorations here. They're on your player board. And so what you do is there is a cost associated to it. And then if you have the gems, you can get extra prestige points, which really help you at the end of the game. That is how the victory condition, whoever has the most prestige points. So if you have, in this case, if you had a piece of lumber, and if you had a green and purple gem, you would end up placing this in this section there. You would place the gems as well, and you would gain your prestige points. And that is the game in a nutshell. It is, you just keep on playing until someone has built 6 sections of the cathedral, and then it activates the end game. You finish it, and then you count to see who has the most points. All right, guys, here's the White Castle. So I'm going to go over this a little bit differently than the Red Cathedral. I'm just going to kind of go over the few sections and a real basic turn, so they have a basic idea. But there's a little bit more going on in this game, so it is a little bit more complicated. So the first section up here this is your influence track. This is your passage of time track. This is a turn order track, so I only have 1 piece set up, but if you have this up to 4-player game, so you would have a turn order for each person. And here is the component for that. The components here are just really cool. All right, now you have your garden section here. So at the beginning of the game, you set out random garden sections. You have your stone garden, and then your more flower garden. So each one of these cards give you different abilities. And this is where your bridges are as well. So these dice are extremely important for how you play the game. You have right here, this is your castle. Here, as you the entrance to the castle, and then as you go into them, as you seek an audience with I believe it's the regent, or the powers that be. You have your training yard here for your warriors. You have your outer walls here that you can do different things, and then you have your well here as well. All right, then you set out your steward and diplomat cards, and these get placed in these sections here. All right, in each one of these sections, they have spaces for these tiles here. These tiles, you have the red dice, you have the white dice, and you have the black dice. This is going to dictate exactly which dice you can place in each section. All right, then you set up your main player board here. So you have 3 different family members. You have your courtier meeples. These go into the castle. You have your gardeners. These go in the garden section. And you have your warriors. They go into the training yards to help. All these help you gain influence. Now, there's also a way to randomly choose. You have a action card and a resource card that you start the game off with. So your action card you place here in this section. That will change over time, but that's what you start with. And then you get a resource card. So the resource cards allows you to start the game off with resources. In this case, you get 4 coins and you get 1 daimyo. So these are important. They're like vouchers that the region gives you. It kind of helps you, to gain more things in the White Castle. Now, here's your resource track here. So you have your food, you have iron, and mother of pearl. Each of these help you to do different things in the game. So you get to choose 3 of whatever type you want, however you want. And then you put this here in this lantern section, and there is an action in the game that you start to gather resources, and throughout the game you end up placing more things, more cards on this row here. And so this becomes like an engine, and as you place the lantern, or as you have the lantern turn or mechanism, you start building more resources to help you. All right, so on your turn, you go to the bridges here. You have the red, the black, and the white, and you get to choose from either one of these bridges to place out on this board here. And so the way it works is you roll these dice and you set them from lowest to highest. And so you have to choose from either the lowest number or the highest number. And so if you choose, let's say I choose this red dice here, that's the number 6. I have to go out to the board here, and I can only place it where a red dice allows me to do that. All right, so I chose the red 6, and I'm going to use this section here to play on. So you can see here there's a red, a black, and a white dice. So since I chose the red 6, I can only use this action here. So there's a couple things about this. Number 1, you can see there's a number here pre-printed. It's the number 3. I have a 6. So I actually have put in a larger number. So if I put a larger dice in than what's listed here, I get the difference in coin. So there's a difference of 3 coins. So now I get to keep that and put that in my supply. Now, what this thing says is that if I pay for 1 daimyo, then I get to place my warrior in the training yard. So I'm going to spin the daimyo here. And so now I get to choose, what section of yard do I want to place my warrior in. Now there's a few stipulations here. It does cost. It costs different amounts of iron. So the higher you go, you get better things, and it's worth more in the end of the game. So if I actually only have 1 iron, so I'm forced to go here, and I pay the iron, and then I get the benefits that are associated to it. And it also helps me, the more warriors I have in these sections, help me in the end of the game with any courtier that I have in the White Castle. All right, if you would have chosen the dice that is the smaller amount on the left side, the cool thing about that is, as you saw before, I had a dice that had a larger number than what was listed. So most likely, if you choose a smaller dice, you're actually going to have to spin coin to place there. So in the situation before, there's a number 3 listed on the board. So if I would have placed this here, I would have had to pay 2 coin. Now, that may sound bad, but when you use the dice on the left side of the board, you get to use your lantern action. So here's my lantern action here. So at the beginning of the game, it's not awesome, but it starts to build up as you gather more cards. So at the beginning, I would get 1 iron for using the small dice that's on the left side of the bridge. So that does start to accumulate as the game continues, and you can really start to get a lot of resources that way. So one of the actions that you will encounter in placing dice throughout the board is placing a gardener. So you would choose your gardener from your player board, and you would just pick a spot on the garden section that you want to place. Now it does cost something to do that, but then you gain something. So in this case here, if I chose this section here, it would cost me 1 food, but then I would get 2 of any other type of resource. So I actually could choose 1 food and get 2 back. So, or I could, pay for 1 food and get 2 iron, or mix and match it however I want. So that is how you place the gardener. Now, also the other cool thing about the gardener is at the end of each round, there is an opportunity potentially to where you can actually do this action again. So having a lot of gardeners helps you to accumulate more actions after each round. All right, and my personal favorite is going into taking your courtiers and going into the White Castle. So you start off at the entrance of the White Castle here, and you get to do 1 of 2 actions. So you have to pay 2 coin, and you can place a new courtier on the entrance. And if you have 2 mother of pearl, then you can move your courtier up a level in the White Castle. If you have 5 mother of pearl, you can actually go twice. You can go up 2 levels. And the higher you go in the White Castle, the better it is for you. So you get to choose. If I have just 2 mother of pearl, I can choose from one of these 3 locations and place it place it on any of these cards. Now, here's the cool thing about that. When I place it here, now I take this and I place it on my player board. So I'm going to go over that in a second. Now, a new card is now displayed, so that changes the game. So the rest of the game is set up randomly every game. This section is random, but the cool thing about the castle is as you continue to place your courtiers inside the White Castle, you collect these cards, and the game changes. Now things change and you get new resources or new abilities. So I love that about the White Castle. All right, now if you get to the very top of the White Castle and these spots have not been taken, you get to place your meeple in those sections. And so now when you do your lantern action, you get additional actions. If these 3 spots are taken, then you just keep it up here, and that is worth more points at the end of the game. The higher you get, the more points you can get at the end of the game. All right, so this is when you take that card from the White Castle, then you take it right here, and you end up replacing this one. And I'm going to go over this in a second. Now you take this, you flip it over, and you place it in your lantern section. And now this is how your lantern section becomes more powerful throughout the game. So now let's go over your player board. So this is of course where as you gather resources or spend resources, you move it up and down the track. Okay, the other thing you could do on your turn, if you do not want to place a dice on the main board, you can place it on your player board. So there's different sections for the red, black, and white. So if I place it here, the cool thing is I start to get the resources that are listed on my player board. And as I place the different meeples throughout the game, this becomes more powerful. And so it becomes extremely powerful, and I can gather a lot of resources. And that is the White Castle. So both the Red Cathedral and the White Castle, these are just basic overviews. There's a lot more to both of these games. I was able to go through a little bit more of the Red Cathedral. That is a little bit more simple game. This one, there's a lot going on. So this is a very basic overview, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Okay. All right, guys, that was a basic overview on how to play the Red Cathedral and the White Castle. So hopefully you have a basic idea of what's going on in these 2 games. So now I'm going to compare both these games. This was very difficult. I actually didn't really want to do it because they're both very good. I broke it down, and what I'm going to do is I'm breaking it down into 5 different sections of how I'm going to judge or compare these 2 games. And the sections are: number 1 is art, number 2 is components and table presence, number 3 is mechanisms, 4 is gameplay, and number 5 is just a basic overview. And so let's get into it. Let's decide which one I think is the best. Now I can tell you this one, it surprised me. I really fought for one of the games. I really thought that one of the games was going to win over, and it surprised me when I really started breaking this down and decided which one I thought, if I had to choose one, which one I'd get. But I would, in my personal opinion, I would get both of them. If you love these style games, they're very great games. And DeVere is just an excellent publisher. I love publishers that can pack a mighty punch in a small box. They keep it very economical. They're not expensive, but they're very nicely produced. They don't take up a lot of space, and the games are very good. So, all right, let's get into it. So, art. I love the art in the Red Cathedral. It's very realistic. I love just the nature on the rondelle. That's my favorite part. The rondelle is just so pretty. The scoring track is just the intricacy. The art is very intricate, and I love that in art. It's very realistic. And then the White Castle. So the White Castle, in my opinion, is an excellent art, but more simple. It's not as intricate. It seems like now they have more to do. The board is a lot bigger, so there's a lot more art that they had to, to produce. But out of these 2 games, the Red Cathedral does win in my book. The artwork in the Red Cathedral is better, and so it does win in that respect. Okay, so we got components and table presence. So in this situation, the Red Cathedral does come in second place. So the components are very basic. I mean, and I already mentioned this. I mean, DeVere comes out with, they're more economical games. These are not like deluxeified games. These aren't like Kickstarter style games. Now, I hope they do something like that. That would be awesome. But the Red Cathedral is a lot more basic. It is more simple in regards to the components, and the White Castle is just beautiful. I mean, there's the round marker. It's huge. You have the meeples. They're big, and they take up. When I first saw them, I'm like, man, these are big. I don't know if I'm gonna like them, but the components, the bridges. I mean, that just takes it away. The bridges in the game just take it away. So, all right, now we got mechanisms. So, the Red Cathedral, the rondelle in the Red Cathedral is my favorite, one of my favorite rondelle mechanisms in all of rondelle style games. I just really love it. Here's the thing with the rondelle is you have to, in the Red Cathedral, you have to go to the market to get resources. So that's something you have to do, but the main goal is to build this cathedral. So the actions to build the cathedral are the more important actions. But in the Red Cathedral, I love going to the market so much. It's like I just want to go to the market. I want that to be my turn, even though I really need to be building the cathedral, which I will build a cathedral if if that's what I have the ability to do. But I just love when I go to the rondelle. That mechanism, it was just very clever. I love it. I love thinking through what I need to do and trying to maximize my turn to get as many resources as I possibly can. All right, in the White Castle, my favorite mechanism is the action drafting and the worker placement using dice. So I'm going to tell you one thing, is both these games use dice, and it was the Castles of Burgundy that really opened my eyes up to dice in games. I actually used to not want to play games with dice, and the Castles of Burgundy opened my eyes, but these two games just really solidified it for me. After learning and playing these two games, I love dice in games, and especially when they do it the way these guys did it. So I really like how clever it is, how you have to choose which dice that you're going to choose. If you choose a lower dice, you're probably going to have to pay money, but that consequence is going to give you something in return. You're going to get to use your lanterns to gain different resources. So I really enjoy that in just deciding where to go and how you can maybe block people. It's very important. You really got to think about it. So those are my two favorite from the White Castle and the Red Cathedral. But I'm just going to say the Red Cathedral wins out in the mechanisms category just because that rondelle, I just fell in love with it. I love it. So now let's get into the fourth category, which is gameplay. And so this has to do with how the game plays, how it's connected to theme, just how the mechanisms work together and how the flow of the game works. So let's start with the White Castle on this one. So I really like how there's a lot of variableness in the White Castle. Number one, you only have 9 turns. And so you have to maximize every one of your turns. Now, in each game, there's going to be different setups, different places where, the red die, the black die, the white die can go. There's going to be different rewards when you go into the training yards for the warriors. There's going to be different cards placed out in the castle. In your gardens, you're going to have different cards placed out that come with different rewards. Every game is extremely different. And so the depth of replayability in the White Castle is there. I can see this game being a game that you can just play, and every game is going to be so different that you're going to have to create a different strategy. I was talking to somebody earlier, and you only have 9 turns, so sometimes you can feel stuck, but you can still change the game. So in the castle, those cards, when you are able to take your courtier into the castle, you get to take that card, which is now going to display a new card with a new resources, new things you get to do. And so even when maybe the setup isn't as perfect as you'd like, you can go into the castle and change it throughout the game. So the depth in gameplay in the White Castle is great. All right, now let's go over the Red Cathedral. So in the Red Cathedral, it is a little bit more streamlined. I do consider it more simple decisions. Like you don't have as You're either going to go to the market, or you're going to claim a section of the cathedral, or you're going to build a section of the cathedral. And so that decision is fairly straightforward. Also, the randomness of the game, when you set out the game and you can move the components, how you set the game up. I don't see that as impactful as the White Castle. On the rondel, you're going to randomly place the resources around the rondel, but I don't really see that affecting the game that much. So the replayability is there because the game is very interesting, and there's so much to kind of wrap your head around in that game. And even though it's more streamlined, to really master it is going to take a lot of time, and to think through the puzzle, and especially going to the rondel, that puzzle of the rondel, how to maximize your turn, is just really pleasing. So there's a lot of replayability in the Red Cathedral, in my opinion, but not in the same sense as the White Castle. So the White Castle, in my opinion, it won out there. All right, the last section is the overview. So let's determine which one I think is the better game. All right, so the Red Cathedral has been out for a long time, and I'll just go over real quickly when the White Castle came out. I saw this on a lot of content creators, a lot of YouTube channels. They were like, okay, the White Castle is great, but it's not gonna beat the Red Cathedral. That's just a classic. That's an awesome game. So then I slowly started seeing these people come around and say, no, the White Castle is better. And so when I heard that, I was like, and my thought was, oh, they're just gravitating to this because it's a new game. And I know there's a lot of hype when new games come out. Everyone wants to play that, and the old game kind of just goes and falls by the wayside. In our hobby, we do that all the time. So I held on to the Red Cathedral. Like, no, this is a classic. This is great. And the whole time, I just, in my head, I was going to like this game better. When I played the Red Cathedral, I was like, okay, no, this game is awesome. There's no way the White Castle is better. And then when I played the White Castle, it was harder. It was more difficult to get anything done. I had a harder time doing the things I wanted to do. And when I was done with it, then I was like, I just, in my head, I thought the Red Cathedral was better. But as I broke it down and started breaking it down in these sections and really thinking about it, and when I really started delving into the way that the game changes every game, how when you set out the board, how you set it out can make the game drastically change every time, and it can make you have to create a new strategy every time. That it just won me over. And so these games are both excellent games, but in my humble opinion, the White Castle beats it by this much. Like I said, I would have both these games. If I could only have one or the other, I would be happy with that. But I do believe that the White Castle did win me over. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. And so let's go over this giveaway here. So what I want you guys to do, we're going to give away a copy of the White Castle. I have it right here. It's never been opened. I can't wait to get it to one of you guys. I hope to get it to you by Christmas, so you guys can play this excellent game. If you haven't played the Red Cathedral, get it. Please get it and play it. And let's go over what you got to do. All you need to do is just comment. Be a subscriber, of course. I want to thank you guys for that. And then comment, what games would you like? What games would you like me to compare? I want to do more of these. I really had a good time doing it. And so is there 2 games that you would like me to compare? I don't know if I played it or not. If I haven't and I like it, I will get them and play them. But other than that, I want to thank everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.